Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick. This is an episode of Kirk, Your Enthusiasm. I am Kirk. You guys know me. You don't care about me. But today, I'm joined by my friend, Dave DuFour of The Athletic. Dave, how are you?
Fantastic.
You look
amazing.
good. The beard looks good.
Thank you. You'd think that I put some time into trimming it today or something like that. Nope. Just woke up like this.
I had to take some headshots for something. Ooh. And I had a neck beard growing down. It took 20 minutes to figure it all out. And I didn't cut myself, which is pretty important.
You gotta switch to I've gone all electric on my face.
Yes.
And it's the best decision I ever made.
Okay, we may need to reconcile that off the air because that is something I'm actually interested in. But we're not here to talk. We're in the middle of August, and August is just depending on your kind of basketball involvement. If you like, European basketball and kind of world basketball, there's actually a fair amount of stuff going on. But in the case of Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks, they don't have any of those players anymore. So I am sort of in a content desert. We're starting to get schedule trickles today, which is at least something. But Dave is my friend and has been my friend for quite some time, though. I was actually thinking I can't even remember how I met you. Probably at Summer League. That sounds
through
correct.
Adam Mares. Yeah,
probably. Yeah, because Adam's like the guy at the bar who knows everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually spent a pretty couple nights hanging out in Vegas talking to different people, which for you and I think is pretty funny because one of the really great things about going to Las Vegas, in my opinion, is realizing just how much of the media are antisocial nerds, and they're great to hang. Some of these people are great to hang out with, but they very clearly don't human very well.
Right.
And so it's always a trip hanging out with some people that are not extroverted, but have to go out in extroverted cities. So, you and I always have a good time.
We do.
Hanging out. And I had you on probably 3 years ago, but just really haven't bothered you since because you've been really bopping around, and I get pretty bad with the interview type things. But I want to start doing more of these because I do. I forget. I'm not quite like you, but I just know a lot of people, and it's I might as well bother them and ask them basketball related stuff. For our people who aren't familiar with you, if you're listening to the show, Dave hosts a podcast on The Athletic, and I want to get to that in a second, but I want you to first kind of introduce our audience to yourself. How did you end up in this media bit?
You can thank Larry Kuhn and Nate Duncan.
Really?
Yeah.
What? So is this talk to me about that? I don't think I knew this.
So I had been working for a little bit as a basketball coach. I got into coaching. I was a teacher in South Korea on a military base, and they needed a girls JV volleyball coach. And I knew just enough to be dangerous there. Sure. I understand volleyball, and I played, right. But did pretty well, and I really enjoyed it. And I had already been training kids in the gym, playing basketball and stuff. So it was a natural sort of transition. And then, I got my first coaching job not long after that, that I was in no way qualified for.
Fantastic. Best kind of job.
I was in Germany and managed to convince a club to give me one of their worst teams. And I took it over, and, I worked there for 4 years. By the end of it, I was doing player development essentially for the 5-year-olds and the 75-year-olds. Just the way that the club worked. And then I moved back to the States, and I was coaching at a small high school in Arizona and didn't know anybody. And Larry Kuhn was teaching sports business classroom. And so I went as a student.
Oh,
and while I was there, Nate, I was we were at the end of the week, and everybody was asking me what my plans were, what I was going to do. And Nate Duncan asked me, have you ever thought about podcasting? And my response was, not about basketball. And a couple weeks later, I started a podcast during the 2016 Olympics. And I was the only guy who knew all these players. This is early on when the initial run of people really getting into international basketball during the summer, content wise. So I was early there, and then I don't know, The Athletic kind of found me. Jade Hoy found me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, okay. Some of that I didn't even know. I remember some of it as you were talking, particularly the stuff at working overseas. That That makes a lot more sense to me, and
Yeah.
kind of how we got here. And it's
I
funny,
came a little bit like just the oddest angle you could possibly take.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, the people that get involved in the basketball, like what's the sports business class called?
Sports business classroom.
So the sports business classroom takes place at the same time as Las Vegas Summer League. It's
Right.
like a hub of people. And a lot of folks that go to do this have gone on to do really interesting things in basketball. If you ever want to know more about it, it's worth looking into. But I will say, please tell me you think it's fair criticism. The kind of folks that are interested in this aren't exactly the most boisterous of personalities. So
No.
I feel like that's where you probably stood out just by being, it's the same thing as a media member. Like if
I
you're
was also 35 years old, you know,
right,
I mean,
compared to a lot
nobody
of
knows
those
how
guys that are
old I
younger.
am. Right. And
That's true. The
so
bald helps.
I come in a little bit more of a fully formed human being. And, you know, I've also have a varied background that I don't necessarily want to get into, but let's just say I've spent a lot of time in front of large groups of people.
Yeah.
Large groups of people doing things that are much more difficult than talking about basketball or, you know, or
That makes
any
sense.
of that. So yeah, I'm good in a room. So yeah.
Well, and that sort of leads me like directly into what you're doing now. So how long you've been hosting this athletic daily show for 3 seasons or
this was our first of the NBA daily, but I've been at the
athletic adjacent
this is
for
my
a while.
7th season.
Yeah, no, because you were on with Kate. A lot of our listeners are familiar with you with the podcast you did with Tim Cato. But so you've been doing this daily show for a while. And talk to me about the initial pitch for the show versus kind of what it's become. Because you talked to me about this in Summer League, and you seemed like just for audience full disclosure, there's times Dave's been like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do media anymore. And then this summer you were like, I think you seem, to me at least, you're genuinely kind of enthused about how it's going. So I want to hear about that for a bit.
Well, my pitch was, what if we did something every night that was fun? You know, not that we weren't making fun stuff, but that wasn't necessarily the goal.
Okay.
And to me, you know, look, basketball, man, I'm so lucky that my job is to watch basketball and then I get to bat it around with people that I like and have fun doing it. Why is so much of basketball media negative and oddly angry? And I think it's a lot of that. Look, I don't want to dig into the psyche of what it takes to watch this many games because, man, it is a job no matter what. Like everybody knows this. Every dream job turns into a job. But there is a certain amount of like, why are people listening to you hate watch or whatever? Now, look, we were lucky. We didn't have that problem at The Athletic. I thought The Athletic NBA show was mostly a positive show. Of course, there's some negative criticism and stuff like that, but it was to me, a good show that I was proud of making. But this was an opportunity where we needed to make a pivot. And I thought, well, why not make it fun like the Tonight Show almost, back when it was good. It should be fun. We're going to relive this awesome thing that just happened last night. We're going to talk to somebody about the big story of the day. And it was functional instead of just being a waste of your time. You know, our show, we're aiming for 25 minutes. So it's
very important.
Right. It's just, I don't know, respecting your time. We get in, we get out. And I would actually say, man, not to toot our own horn, but
I want you to toot your own horn.
We have as much in there if you're just weighing the meat of the show, we don't have fat on the show. So there's not a lot of, you listen to a podcast, someone will do a 3-minute monologue where they don't say anything. I mean, it's not even word salad. It's word like end cutoffs from making the salad. It's nothing. And we just don't have that problem. And it's a nice problem to not have. Filming 45 minutes is much more difficult than 25 minutes. 25 minutes, I get to prune. I have to leave things that I want to talk about off the show unless they come up. So I actually have enjoyed it. I imagine it's kind of like what, to a certain degree, the way that they work on Saturday Night Live, the way they work on any sort of daily show, like that's the way we approach it. Like we write jokes for each other, like it's a fun time. I mean, it's just, as far as, NBA podcasts go, it was an opportunity to just do something different than anybody else was doing. And it kind of hit. So, people seem to like it.
I agree with that. appreciation of the listener's time, along with the intent to have a positive energy, really goes a long way. Because one of the things that works for like the NFL, for example, is that there's just not enough games. So there's a lot of like excitement around the game itself. And then with like basketball, by February and January, it's a bit of a march. And so even as a fan, you can be like, oh, well, okay, back to do this again. So it's nice to get, and shoot knows our podcast is guilty of that as anything, where it's just nice to tune in and listen and hear about some of this stuff. So if you guys haven't subscribed, it's the Athletic NBA Daily. You can search it, find it easily. There's a special episode that I have yet to get to, but can't wait to hear. It was the Basketball 100 that they put out yesterday. Is Kyrie Irving the best number 2 ever? It wasn't necessarily, it was hosted by like Jared Weiss and Tony Jones. And so it's like they pipe in some other shows into the feed too that are worth listening to, because it's the Athletic has changed a lot as a company the last 7 or 8 years as we move away more from print media, leaning more on the audio and the video, and it's some good stuff. I recommend it, and it's
we have the best newsroom and writers in sports. I mean, no one is covering any of these sports in the way that the Athletic is. And so it's nice, like during the summer, number one, I'm doing the show every night. It's nice that I get the break, but it's also nice that we get to feature these guys. The NBA 100, especially, which I have the book. It's a little too far to see, but that bright orange book right there, David Aldridge, John Hollinger. I mean, that book in and of itself was just, you want to talk about a labor of love from people who they love this like I do. And it makes it really easy to work there, man. It's it's kind of a dream job, especially now that it's all, it's Dave, go have fun talking about this fun thing. Okay, cool. I think I've made it.
That leads me into some of what I wanted to ask you about next, because as we've talked over the years, you've really waxed and waned about what you do and don't like about the gig, and you're pretty honest about that, even within the coverage, which is I think kind of nice, because it allows you, who among us has not liked our job, but you're in a place right now where it seems like everything is really fun, so that I want to know. So this is a two-pronged question, both from your kind of point of view as an analyst, and then from the point of view as a basketball coach, of which you still are an active basketball coach. I ask you basketball stuff all the time about my child. What do you like about basketball right now from those 2 points of view?
Ooh, NBA wise?
Yeah, let's start NBA first. Yeah.
I mean, with the NBA, right now, I am enjoying the parity.
Okay.
And it's not true parity, which you never have, right? There's always going to be bad teams, and there's always going to be the crop that's above, the pack. But this is the first time in my life that it's felt like if a team made, let's say they're middle of the pack, but they just nail a midseason trade, that they could get themselves out of that and into contention. That's never actually been true. Usually teams, when they make a big midseason trade, it's for next year.
Sure.
At best. And now it feels like we're going to get the wheeling and dealing we're going to get is going to be more teams that are just out of contention trying to go for it.
I mean, it's certainly the case with the 2024 Mavericks.
I think the Mavericks were the first team that really did that. And you look at what they've done since, and you say, well, man, why'd you abandon that track so fast? But they were one of the first teams that I thought did that. They addressed all their issues. They lucked into some stuff. Derek Lively becoming the player that he was right away, obviously made the Gafford deal even better. But it's just I like that aspect of it. And I'm not one of these guys who's watching. I don't watch these players as their contracts out there on the court. I try. Right. I've gotten as far away from that as I've been able to over the course of the last few years, where it's become so much more less important. I think for fans too, the CBA constantly changing and being more confusing, and Larry Kuhn exiting the scene on the FAQ. So I do think that we're seeing a regression back to.
Hope so.
Right. I think fans caring about the contracts, it stinks. It's not fun.
Yep.
I'm not that guy, but I do now watch and I say, hey, look, okay, so this team's bad. Who's going to get this one good player and actually change their season? Because previously it just didn't matter. You know, these trades on the margins just weren't as important. And now you not only have to have, I mean, you got to have talent, but you got to have talent to like the 10th man. And that is much more fun. Again, this is where the basketball coach in me comes out, right? That the Pacers team this last year, watching them get healthy the first, couple months of the season, and then just hit the gas immediately as soon as they had their full roster and could play 9 or 10 guys a night. That to me is a game changer. And if you look at what everyone's saying coming out of this playoff run, the 2 deepest teams are who were in the finals. It's a war of attrition, which we talk about all the time, but we only think about the stars in that. I mean, I think that you've got to have a team that's so deep. If you lose a star during your run, you can withstand it. And that's a different world. Mm-hmm. That wasn't even an option before. And part of that is, again, back to why I'm really like loving basketball right now. The talent curve has flattened so much that your 10th man is not that far off from your 5th starter. Mm-hmm. And I do think that when you have this much talent in the sport, it's going to be tricky, right? Like these guys have almost solved basketball. And I think that can get hard to watch in its own way. But I do think like we're at the point where every year we're finding new stars, maybe not superstars, but new stars, new guys who can do. I mean, Andrew Nembhard was on no one's radar,
right,
a year and a half ago. And now, people were talking about, wow, I mean, he could be the lead guard for whoever, and he's just one example of these guys that are kind of being found through that. And I love those kind of stories. I mean, Danny Green forever was a good bit for me because of just like his path to becoming this really great player. Mm-hmm. And now there's too many guys out there. There's too many Danny Greens.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's fun. It's way more fun. I mean, think about football. Like when like a 3rd string running back would get a chance and he become a real, we would get excited for those guys. And now finally basketball is like that, where you're going to find more and more stars, that didn't seem like they were stars a couple years ago. I mean, Jonathan Kuminga gets to a different team. Maybe he pops. I think he's got enough talent that something like that can happen. It's not likely for him, but
sure. No. Well, and then that leads to the second half of my question, because you are still an active basketball coach. What still provides that thrill with coaching? Like what do you get? What do you get from it? I want to hear that.
Some people play chess, man.
Okay.
And I don't like chess. The thing about thinking about basketball from a strategic standpoint, it scratches an itch, to solve a problem. And no one's solved basketball yet. So until they do, it's a fun thing to think about. I mean, I was in Europe the last few weeks, and I had a chance to hang out with a lot of my basketball friends, and a couple guys that I hadn't seen for 2 years. I was on the coaching staff with them, and we catch up, all the pleasantries and whatnot. And one of the assistants, he says, guys, I've been thinking about offensive rebounding on shots from the corner. And we sat for 3 hours drinking very good wine, talking about the concept and how we would change the way that you crash the offensive glass on shots from the corner. And that's the kind of stuff that I don't know. It's fun. I grew up, I don't know about you, but I used to read a lot of history, a lot of military history, because I found war and the tactics and strategies interesting. And so I've always kind of had that in my sort of playground where I like those concepts. So basketball really allows me to think about things a little bit differently.
It's funny, I'm 41 years old. I've played basketball since I was 5. And there's still so much about basketball that I simply don't know, can't explain, and really want to know more about. I mean, some of it comes from the fact that I have a 9-year-old, and like trying to explain different concepts to him is pretty fun. And so like this summer, I reached out to someone I think is Doc Franco, who is over in Europe, and he linked me up with, I think his name's Luca Bassin, I think is his name, who's this European coach who he shot me a bunch of clips of different players doing different cuts, because I was like, I just can't explain this stuff to my kid. Yeah. And there's so much stuff to learn from basketball if you're interested. And that's really one of the things that keeps like pulling me back to the game. I mean, there's there's so many different ways to play the game. I mean, the NBA, I think there's elements of it that we've fixed, but it's like you're watching like elements of college and some classes of European basketball where the shooting skill just isn't there because it's shooting is an incredibly difficult skill. So you have to find new and different ways to solve and score and defend. And there's just always something there. It's pretty fun.
I tell people all the time. I mean, if you really want to get into basketball, the NBA is its own sport. NBA basketball is a separate sport from any other league on the planet. NCAA maybe being the closest as far as style of play. The above the rim league, it doesn't really exist anywhere else. But women's college basketball, to me, in like NCAA women's college, is the best example of basketball when it comes to game flow, appreciating the fans' time when it comes to watching the game, and then diversity of attack.
Yeah.
I mean, the women's game has post-ups. This is why everybody, like when they watch the Olympics and they watch Eurobasket, which is coming up, it's seeing post-ups reminds you of basketball, and it's because it is. And so, there's a world in which the NBA could solve this and get us back to this more diverse thing, but it would take away some of the show of the NBA, like the athleticism. Like defensive 3 seconds does not exist anywhere else. But without defensive 3 seconds, you don't get as many in-game dunks and layups, and you don't necessarily get the high, the fast pace and the scoring that the NBA wants. So, they do it kind of for aesthetic reasons. And then there's also, they play 82 games, and if you clog the paint, guys get hurt more often. So that's actually something to consider too, although I don't think that was in their thinking. But I'm on this thing where like the NBA, I just put it in its own box as its own type of basketball. And then the rest of the world and women's game, is kind of where I scratch my real itch and enjoy it. I mean, I was watching WNBA last night, watching the Dallas team try to blow another game. So
they're a special watch.
But they're not good, right? I've seen them enough to know that, but that was a rough one to watch.
Well, I could continue to ask you various like broader basketball adjacent questions because there's just so many things that I think about, and it's like very
like what?
Well, I mean, and I end up texting you about it a lot because like that's what's one of the things that I realized pretty quickly with my own child is like there's a whole bunch of stuff that I know but I can't teach. And being able to like find an adequate teacher and means to teach is really important because basketball is the sport, I think, which is pretty easy to pick up and incredibly difficult to master, which is largely the appeal. You can show someone how to do it, but unlike soccer or football, if you're a European, where you play 3-on-3, 7-on-7, 5-on-5, in basketball, there's just not the formatting set up to do a lot of small skill games like the 2-on-2 matchups. So it's as I've been watching a lot of this stuff and trying to help my son see things, it's wild to me, the way that you really only can learn by kind of progress, like different situational stuff. Like Seth, our friend Seth Partnow and I were talking about this, where he's just like, if you want to learn to play basketball, you have to play basketball.
Yep. I mean, I will tell you, as a coach, I am a firm believer in scrimmaging every day. Every day, live 15 minutes. I want to just roll the ball out, call your own plays. I mean,
try stuff. Right.
I mean, exactly. Try stuff. Rick Carlisle is really good about talking about this, but I am of the same mindset. Like we have plays, but bigger than that, we have a philosophy. I don't want to call as a coach. I don't want to call plays constantly.
Right.
It's not football. You don't have the downtime. You're running a million miles an hour in your head and trying to keep up with traffic. I would rather just rely on principles and watch guys get into flow. Make plays, don't run plays, right? Like that was, and on a timeout or, hey, it's a critical possession. Okay. We've got our bread and butter stuff that we're going to go to, but I do think that playing is the most important thing. I look at it more like as a coach, you can be one of two things. You can be overbearing and you're not going to really, in my opinion, not going to get much, or you can be, like let them go free and create art, but then create the rules in which that art needs to exist. So I just make sure they got a clean canvas. Here's your brush. and here are the colors we're going to use today. Please paint me a masterpiece. And just, sometimes you get some special things. I think the best players, you look at Steph Curry, nobody told Steph Curry how to be Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, there's no coach in the world that's going to tell him to be Steph or how to be Steph Curry. Now, I think Steve Kerr told him to go be Steph Curry, but nobody told him how to do it. Michael Jordan's the same way. All of the greats have really been the more creative guys.
Well, this leads directly into my next line of questions, but we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to insert some ads here. Dave, you and I will just sit here in silence for 5 seconds, but I'll put it in the audio feed on the back end because I don't know how to do anything live. So guys, hang out. We'll be right back. Okay, thank you so much for hanging out. This is Pod Maverick, Kirk Your Enthusiasm with Dave DuFour. Now we're going to actually talk some Maverick-specific questions. We were talking broad basketball stroke stuff, and we were talking a little bit about development there before the break. And I want to know, off the top of your head, what were your reactions to watching Cooper Flag play basketball out there in Las Vegas?
I think it was good, man. Look, NBA body. I'm a body guy.
Mm-hmm.
NBA body day one. Great. That's a great sign. Number 2, he was shooting. I don't care if he makes shots, but he has to shoot. And I liked that he came out just gunning, especially off the dribble from 3. I think those are good signs. But, overall, I mean, he kind of met the expectation, that I had for him. I would love to see this guy ditch the T-shirt.
Oh, my God.
It's got to go.
Him and Anthony Davis both wear these constricting T-shirts. And it's like, guys, don't do it.
You're in a professional league now. Come on.
You have a professional body too. He's got the shoulders, I made a joke on one call I was on a couple of weeks ago. I was like, does he have shoulder acne he doesn't want people to know about? We're in the NBA. You can take care of that. But yeah, that's a funny note. I tell you where I get to me, and I was explaining to some other kind of, I'd call them, they're Mavs fans in the area here, but let's just say the Luka thing turned them off quite a bit. You can't put a price on how hard this guy plays. Yeah. And that is playing hard is a skill that I don't necessarily think you can develop. I think you either have it or you don't. And his internal motor, watching him just want to murder everyone the whole time he's out there, is really awesome. And that was probably the thing that I got the kick out of the most, because he had 2 dunks, neither of which he completed, but 2 dunks where it's he was trying to end someone. And that level of attack brings it that's the sort of thing that really can help make a team go from, just give them that little extra push at key points in the game. And, Luka had that to a degree because he's a psychopath himself, but it's different. It's just different because Luka is so hot. He runs hot on the outside, and I feel like Flag runs very cold in a way that's going to be much different to watch. I'm very much looking forward to him.
Almost like Ja Morant.
Okay.
With Cooper Flag, right? Ja is actually pretty chill, but he is constantly trying to just wreck somebody at the basket. I think that sort of mindset from a guy who needs to get downhill, I think it's going to be good for him. But yeah, I mean, look, he checked every single box I would need him to check for a summer league appearance. I think the real tell is going to be, what does he look like, when the season starts and it's just him out there playing against NBA guys, right? How is he going to deal with the first, couple months of the season when they're shorthanded?
Well, they're such an odd team. And that was actually my next question, because they're forward heavy in a way that I don't think most fans understand what that means.
Yeah.
And they are very talented. They have a talented team. But if you were to put those skill sets, if you were to list them out and then rank out ball handling, rebounding, defense.
Well, ball handling is 0.
They don't have it.
They got one dribbler.
And and part of me, our friend Tim Cato, he was the one who put this idea in my head. He kind of questioned whether the Mavericks organization values ball handling at all. And
I can't imagine that's the case. I mean, they have to.
I mean, it really does feel like they're trying to build the 2020 Lakers without LeBron James. I don't know what is going on. They're going to be a smash mouth style basketball team where I put their floor is actually pretty high, but then their ceiling extraordinarily low because they're just, and fans this time of year are really excited. And I think they should be. I don't want to dunk on anything of that regard, but it's Jason Kidd is going to prove his value as a coach this year if he's able to get this team into a playoff contending group. I don't want to be negative, but it's just I think fans are very much undervaluing what a solid. Dallas has always had good point guards.
Right.
D'Angelo Russell is a good secondary guard. He is not your lead guard, and he's gonna have to be it.
This is the big problem that they have going into the season. And that's a bad thing for Cooper Flagg, right? Like, I don't know that he needs to be your secondary ball handler to start the season.
And he's going to be, I think. And he showed something at Summer League. He only had 3 turnovers in 60 minutes at Summer League. Yeah. Think about how much ball handling.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
If I'm a sunny side up guy and I'm remembering what Kidd did with Giannis Antetokounmpo in terms of just giving him the rock and saying, let's go, that's actually really exciting. Right. However, that does not necessarily lean into wins. I hope it does. It's just going to be hard.
I mean, if his shot off the dribble is going to develop, which would be amazing for him. I mean, to be able to be a ball handling 4 who can shoot off the dribble would be very unique, especially with his defensive skill set. It would make him, puts him in contention. Like, where's the peak of his career? He's top 5, maybe in the league, right? Like, that's a great outcome. I just don't know if I'd be banking on that if I was a team that
it's just a risk
to contend.
Yeah.
If you're hoping to contend next year, this is not the way to do it. Doesn't mean that they won't be in the playoff hunt, because like you said, I think that their defense is going to be really good, which is the most important thing for winning in the regular season. But when it comes down to it, not being able to score is going to hinder them. Like, they're not going to be, a home court advantage team for sure. I mean, I think it's safe to say that. And it almost makes me feel like there's this hope that Kyrie is going to be back.
There is. Yeah.
And I just do not understand why we are ignoring the years and years and years of documented evidence that we have about players coming back from ACL tears.
And Kyrie Irving coming back slowly.
Right. I just don't understand why everyone is so willing to ignore that. I mean, the guy is doing Twitch streams, or whatever,
where he talks about how it's hard.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, he's talking about it, right? Like, I just don't know. I mean, these guys aren't themselves usually for about 18 months. And they're looking at less than a calendar year, hoping that he can come back for this push to the playoffs or something. It just feels to me like when Kyrie went down, there probably should have been a talk about a pivot, and especially once they got that number 1 pick, because Anthony Davis has a lot of value. And I don't want to get into like things that aren't going to happen, but it does feel as if this team just is being a little bit just ham-fisted together at this point.
I feel it's like they had an opportunity with the number 1 pick to not, if they're not going to pivot by trading away players, they could pivot by trading away expectations. And instead they've leaned in, the talk at Summer League was even like, the over-under win totals for Vegas has them at like 38 to 42. And then you talk to different media people that are just like, oh, well, I'd see them winning 44 to 50, like 50 games. It's just like, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
And so I don't mind the change in expectations. I would kill them either way because I get frustrated with Nico Harrison, but I just think that like lowering the temperature on expectations this year could really be fun, or could make the season a little more like expectations are the thief of joy. So it really, and I want to enjoy Cooper Flagg, and I'm going to enjoy Cooper Flagg, but I don't want it to be like the cause of strife with wins and losses. Now, I will say the one thing that if you're a Cooper Flagg upside guy, as I think everyone kind of should be, our friend J. Kyle Mann of The Ringer has been following this guy forever. And you watch Cooper Flagg, like Cooper Flagg was primarily a defensive prospect as recently as like 2 years ago. People didn't know about his offense. And then he came into Duke and his shot has been reworked, and he is progress. Like this is the age when guys, I'm of the opinion that 16 to 22 is kind of your key, like maybe even 20, kind of your key. That's when you're making leaps in your game.
Yeah.
Because your body's changing, maturing, but also your brain, like, there's just things are coming together. That's why my theory that Dennis Smith missing basically 2 years was like disastrous for his development. Anyway,
I don't disagree with that.
So for Flag, if you're an upside guy, like he could come in and maybe all this summer, all the different ball handling work and stuff he's doing where he's learning to read and react, maybe that pays off after the first 20 games where they, maybe go 9-11, and then all of a sudden you're petering, you're holding off, and then, okay, we're going to push past the 500 mark. That's got to be your upside thing, but it's just a lofty thing. I mean, I learned the other day that Markelle Fultz was the last number 1 overall pick to go to help a team make the playoffs. And he didn't really help a team make the playoffs. Like, right. Number 1 pick is a lofty expectation thing. All right. I kept you too long here, but I got kind of a couple more questions. What in the world should Mavericks fans make of Anthony Davis? Because his numbers look great. And then his game to game impact is so preposterously varied. Yeah. I don't know what to expect of the guy, and I'm sort of I already am frustrated by him, and I don't want to be. It's not fair to him.
He's tricky because he might be one of the best individual defensive bigs ever, right? His instincts are amazing. He is, but would you say that he raises your team defense tremendously? It's a weird thing to say.
He really hasn't. He really hasn't. And it's shocking when you get into the numbers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because in certain games he's so hilariously ineffective, whereas in other games he's just an iron curtain. I don't know.
And it's hit or miss. Even sometimes it's just the swing on him is massive. And I would say the opinion swing on Anthony Davis, he probably the greatest swing between any player in the top 50 in the NBA. And he's a top 50 player. But nail down where he is. Is he a top 20 player? I think people would argue against it. And he might be. And some nights he is. The bubble was the one of the more interesting times ever. Because Anthony Davis, not only did he had an amazing defensive run, and so did LeBron, by the way, which is really, that's when Anthony Davis has been at his best. But his offensive game has just not touched what he did in the bubble ever in his career. I mean, he
started not for the length, and I think that's what's important. Like the first 20 games of last year, he was number 1 in the NBA's MVP ladder. He was posting. I had somebody was sharing some numbers in my I can't find the numbers anymore, but he was like 32-12 for the first 18, 19 games last season. And then you look at and then he just kind of falls off a cliff. And that's what happened in the bubble, where he got on one of these hot streaks, and he's capable of that. But the consistency of play to be considered a top 10 NBA player is not there.
Right.
It's you know what I mean? And that's not a criticism, because being a top 10 NBA player is the difference between being top 10 and top 15 is tiny degrees of separation. That's not to say he can't lead a team to the playoff or anything like that. It's just mostly expectations night in and night out. And you go to the guys like Game Log, and he always rebounds well. Got to give him credit there. He passes the ball fine. He's not a high turnover guy, but then the shot making, it comes and goes, because he cannot score outside of about 5 feet with any regularity. He just somehow and anyway,
and then there's the stuff where he goes to the locker room so much, and I'm not going to act like he doesn't. There's a lot of people that just act like this is not a real thing with him, but it is a real thing. And that perception is sometimes reality. If you're the only guy who is going to the locker room every game, and he does come back a lot. Like, I'll give him credit. I mean, he gets hit in the eye all the time and still comes back into games. I mean, he, has been dealing with that ankle thing for years, it seems like, the shoulder. So I don't want to take away that he's playing through stuff, but there is a thing. And I feel like Mavericks fans, didn't get much time with him. But what's it going to be like when you're watching these games and it's the third quarter and you're down 10 and all of a sudden he's going back to the locker room for a quarter.
Mhm.
I think that stuff is going to wear on Mavs fans a little bit more than it did on Lakers fans. Because at least with Lakers fans, hey, they won a ring. They were winning, and they still had LeBron. Like Anthony Davis right now is supposed to be the best player on the Mavericks.
Yep.
And if
I'm
he's
wondering,
it
leaves some things where if he clears out because he might be hurt or something like that, does the team work better? Is it what Bill Simmons, Patrick Ewing theory? I'm just
I don't see Cooper Flag as a 3.
You don't? Okay.
Nah,
see, neither do I. And I've
don't.
really not wanted to say this because I don't feel like arguing with people. I think he's his best usage is a roving 4 in the Draymond Green mold, causing chaos and being a connector on offense.
Honestly, it's a little bit like if Anthony Davis is your 5 and Cooper Flag is your 4,
what it should be.
Makes a lot of sense. But then you've got a Lively and Gafford problem. Those guys are both starters. I think Lively for sure is a starter.
Yeah.
And again, this is where that pivot would just make so much sense. If you moved on from Anthony Davis and it was Cooper Flag and Derek Lively as your starting,
pretty rad
5, I feel like that's a good place to start out. When you got 2 young guys that can anchor a defense. I mean, if you look, it's Oklahoma City, it's kind of what they've been banking on.
That's right.
So, I just, if you're trying to win, I get it. You can't move Anthony Davis because he's going to be the best player in your team this year. But you got to do something else around him.
That's right. Well, all right.
Any other for AD? Let me ask you, who's going to create for AD? Is it going to be Cooper Flag?
Russell did a pretty good job with the Lakers.
Yeah.
But he pairs best with a downhill guard that they don't have.
Right.
Really the issue. And AD, I think what they may end up doing is letting AD have a lot of, because AD is a pretty good distributor, ball handler.
Yeah.
He talks a big game about it's like, I remember Lakers fans saying, well, if he got to play like Giannis, maybe he'd be amazing. It's like, well, he might get the opportunity.
He doesn't
I don't think he wants to do that.
Skill set. He honestly, he gets banged up too much. I mean,
he doesn't like the contact.
Yeah. And also he doesn't have the handle. Teams would love to see him dribbling in space.
I kind of want to see it. I just kind of want to
guard him with your smallest guy if he's dribbling in space.
Little.
What's he going to do? He's not going to pull up. He doesn't want to shoot the 3 off the dribble for sure. He doesn't want to shoot the spot up 3. So I just think no, he needs to go work the dunker spot, buddy. You're a center. You're a center.
He is a center. It's really bad. Are there any other Mavericks off the top of your head that you're intrigued for the next season?
Klay Thompson. I wonder where he's going to wind up.
I think he needs to get married to Meg the Stallion and take her last name, Clay the Stallion, on jerseys. Just print money.
Clay's having a great summer.
He is. And I really wonder, I think when his head's in the right spot, he becomes a very different player.
Yeah. I think, PJ Washington is obviously kind of fascinating because, I mean, is he going to be the starting 2 guard? Like, how does this work? Because, again, if you're just thinking we're going to play our best 5 guys, they're all big. They're all big. Maybe you just say, you know what, Jason Kidd.
Well, so you got off the Twitter, which is best for your mental health. But I shared this clip on repeat recently. There's a scene in the opening minutes of Ocean's 11 where Brad is trying to teach them to play poker, all these 20-somethings in Hollywood, and he starts yelling at one of them where he's like, you got 3 pairs. It's a 5-card game. And Topher Grace stands up and goes, hey, look, all reds. And that's how I feel about the Mavericks and their forwards, where they're just going to play like big ball in the most hilarious way possible. And it's going to cause havoc some nights. Like they're going to beat the piss out of a team like, let's just say Portland. And then they're going to get waxed by the best teams in the league. And it's going to be a riot. I kind of can't wait. I'm really,
see, now you're speaking my language. See, this is the thing about the show. I am looking forward to seeing this weird stuff that the Mavericks are going to have to do. I'm not out on it. It's not negative. Sure. They are going to have to do some weird stuff. So to me, that's so exciting.
It is.
Like this is basketball weirdness is hard to come by in the NBA. And I will tell you, there's no better coach than Jason Kidd. I actually think Jason Kidd's a really good coach. I think he's proven to be a good coach. and a creative one. So if he's allowed to do whatever he wants, I think we might be in for something this season.
It's going to be something. Well, guys, this has been Kirk Henderson and Dave DuFour. You can check out Dave on the Athletics NBA Daily. Really recommend the show and the subscribe button. Thank there. You. Guys, I have no idea when I'll be back. Maybe I'll host a live show Friday. I don't know. I sort of, there are days where I wake up and life is overwhelming. I just took on a job with Offsides, this new kind of network. And I'm like, apparently going to be making short form video content, which I don't know how to do. So this is great. It's a great time to be involved in NBA content because the game is weird and it's fun.
It is fun.
Yep.
It is fun. I mean, we just had the best playoff run of my life.
This is a good time.
Amazing.
I'm partial to 2011, but you'll appreciate that. So, okay, everybody, be good. We'll talk soon. Dave, thanks so much. Everybody, have a great week and go Mavs.